The Prison Experience, Back to Blackburn, Chapter 15. After my haircut, I settled into the bay as best I could. It took some time for my bruises and ribs to heal. I watched my back a lot more and avoided going out very much. Personal safety became high priority on my list, and I locked my last pair of shoes in my locker when not wearing them. I still had my radio, but picking up radio stations was a lot harder at North Point. I found that in the small TV room where I drank my morning coffee and wrote letters, I could place the radio on a metal tube that ran around the room and pick up some of the radio stations. Jack's was one station that played a mix of rock and pop music. I could pick up Z-Rock and classic rock a little on days when the weather was clear. My mail was now being forwarded to North Point, and I would get an Esquire magazine or Rolling Stone from time to time. Getting mail was a crapshoot, so to speak, as all mail except for legal mail is monitored. Even at Blackburn, mail is inspected. I felt somewhat safer in this bay, but I still had to be careful about anything I did. I wrote a letter to Roger and got him to send me a copy of Zero X manual, just to see if I could get it past the mail inspection. To my surprise, it actually showed up. Zero X is a direct-to-disc recording software package for a system I worked with back home. Getting the manual at North Point gave me a little hope of getting out someday. I had no program at North Point, so Zero X became my version of a program to do. I studied over it in the mornings when no one else much was up. After the first morning count, I would go back to my bunk and sleep until lunch. I did lunch in the bay and never went out much. I continued this routine until at last my security level dropped and I got a choice to go to a lower security prison. I thought about going to a different prison, but I could also go back to Blackburn. Better the enemy you know than the one you don't, so I chose to return to Blackburn. I at least knew the place. The day arrived when it was time for me to pack up my things and head for Blackburn. The last thing I heard from one of the guards was, "Don't come back." The drive back to Blackburn was fairly quiet. I hadn't seen much but prison walls at North Point. After getting to Blackburn, I went through the usual inspection and got assigned a bed back in Dorm 2. North Point had taken its toll on me, and I looked at Blackburn a little differently after that. Most of the inmates that I knew of at Blackburn had moved on, and they had set up a SAP program located in one of the bays in Dorm 2. SAP was a program I never wanted to do, but everyone was required to sign up for it. It's a bunch of BS for the most part. I had heard the stories from others that had went through it and ones that didn't, so I turned it down just about any chance I got to. After settling back into Blackburn, I had to find a job again. The library was not going to work. They had eliminated most jobs there. Word came that there was a few jobs at the gym, and I should go there and check one out. I did, and took the chemical job, which involves keeping the chemical and disinfectant jugs full of chemicals and dragging bags full of dirty mops down to laundry for cleaning, and also taking out the gym garbage. It sucked, but I got work time credit for it each month. I normally got the work done in the morning, so I didn't have to do as much after lunch. I got back to Blackburn in September 2019. Guns N' Roses was playing Louisville one weekend, as I heard on my radio, which had survived. I went to the walking track that weekend and listened to the radio for a while. I still had some time to do, so I signed up for a fire and safety program. After a few months, I got in and continued to work as the chemical guy at the gym. After completing fire and safety, I got 90 days subtracted and could start to see approximately when I would finish my sentence if I didn't get any more write-ups. After what happened to me at North Point, I really didn't give a damn anymore. I was close enough to getting out that I could just about do the time living in the hole if I had to. I had already been turned down for parole again while at North Point, which wasn't any surprise. After completing fire and safety, I went back to the usual daily routine of working at the gym, listening to the radio, writing songs and letters to Mom and Dad. There wasn't very many programs left to get into at Blackburn. Then one day I got asked if I wanted to do SAP, and I accepted. I didn't want to do it, but thought I'd try it out. If I got through it, then I'd be 90 days closer to home. The program was at Blackburn, so I went for it. A Q mate of mine, Big Dog, was also getting into SAP at the same time. Big Dog was all right. He's big, and he and I got along just fine. He and I would walk up to the track together sometimes, and I met other inmates again that I got along with at Blackburn. Big Dog slept in the bottom bunk under me. Turns out he's a pretty good guy. He never caused me any trouble. He weighs in about 400 pounds or so. I weigh in about 225. Big Dog is over 6 feet tall and sort of reminds you of a wrestler. I got to know him over time. He had a job at the chapel, and I was working in the gym. Around this time, the first signs of the coronavirus was also making some news. I heard some references to it on the radio shows of the morning. Kelly Gates had started doing a morning show at Classic Rock. She had been to California and had returned to Kentucky for a while. She was very informative and knowledgeable about things in the world of classic rock, and had a pleasant voice to listen to. Twitch and MJ were still doing their morning show on Z-Rock. Anyway, the coronavirus started making news, and the personnel started preparing us for it somewhat. At first, it was hard to take it seriously. I was the chemical guy at the gym, and new orders came for me to sanitize everything there. I got a controlled ration of bleach to use to spray on everything, which I worked into my daily routine. Other inmates were also instructed to keep everything extremely clean, which they were already doing. Dorm 2 was a pretty clean dorm to start with. The coronavirus rumors started at Blackburn, and everyone was talking about it. It didn't upset me, however, until they started issuing us masks to wear.